Hi, everybody. It's Ms. Sam with Carnegie Public Library, and today's book that we'll be reading are The BooBoos That Changed the World, a true story about an accidental invention. Really. They say that necessity is the mother of invention, and we're going to find out how necessity played a very big part in the creation of Band Aids. The author is Barry Wittenstein, illustrated by Chris Hugh, and the publisher is Charles Bridge. It's a funny book and it's an interesting book, and please join me for this today's reading. Thank you. Once upon a time, in 1917 actually, a cotton buyer named Earl Dixon married his beloved Josephine, and they lived happily ever after. The end. Actually, that was just the beginning. The newlyweds expected to live a quiet life in New Brunswick, New Jersey. Instead, Earl and Josephine ended up changing the world one boo-boo at a time. You see, Josephine was accident prone. She often bumped and bruised herself while working around the house. But that was nothing compared to how often she injured herself in the kitchen. Ouch! When she sliced and diced an onion, she sometimes sliced her finger too. Boo-hoo! When she grated cheese, and she sometimes grated her knuckle. Arr! When she lifted a hot pot off the stove, she sometimes burned her hand. After Josephine winced in pain, she quickly grabbed a rag to stop the bleeding. But with bulky towels between her fingers, it was even harder for Josephine to hold a knife. She became even more accident prone. Impossible, you say? It's true. Josephine's klutziness had become a bloody problem. Every night when Earl came home from work, he looked forward to talking with Josephine and eating the wonderful meals that she had prepared. That was until he saw his beloved's hands. Yikes! Her cuts might get infected. He had to help his new bride. Earl's father was a doctor, so Earl knew a little bit about boo-boos and bandages, and luckily he worked for a company that manufactured hospital supplies. Earl knew that there had to be a solution, but what was it? Earl thought while he shaved in the morning, maybe if I... And Earl thought about it when he bought cotton in the afternoon. Then I could... And after Earl thought some more while he lay in bed at night, and that would solve... Finally, a light bulb went over his head. "I've got it!" Earl yelled with excitement, waking up Josephine. "What have you got?" she asked. "The bloody solution, of course," Earl replied. The next morning, Earl tried out his idea. Step one, he took a long piece of adhesive tape and laid it on the kitchen table, sticky side up. Step two, Earl cut small squares of sterile gauze and then stuck them on the tape every few inches. Step three, he placed a material called crinoline on top of the adhesive tape to keep the whole strip sterile. "It's perfect," Earl said proudly. Now all Josephine had to do was to cut off a piece of the longer strip and put it on. She didn't need anybody's help. She only needed one hand. It worked. At last they lived happily ever after. The end. What? Wait. Here comes the part about how Earl and Josephine changed the whole world. Earl guessed that there were probably hundreds, possibly even thousands of people who could benefit from his new invention. Earl and Josephine thought about making the bandages themselves, but they soon realized it was too big a job. Earl told one of his co-workers about it, and the co-worker encouraged Earl to meet with the company's president. At first, Earl's boss, James Johnson, wasn't quite sure Earl's idea was good enough. Earl demonstrated how easy it was to put the bandage on. Then Mr. Johnson saw his own light bulb. The company agreed to produce and sell the product. They combined the words bandage and first aid to create the clever name Band-Aid. Now Earl and Josephine could surely live happily ever after because Band-Aids were guaranteed to be an instant success. And with that, we have come to the end. Thank you and good night. Oops, not yet. Sorry. There's still more of the story to tell. That first year, Band-Aids were made in a factory. It was a slower than slow process, and only a small number could be manufactured by hand. They came rolled up and were 18 ridiculous inches long and 3 ridiculous inches wide, and they still had to be cut into pieces. Earl, Josephine, and Mr. Johnson had high expectations, but the Band-Aid boxes collected dust, ignored and unwanted. A few years earlier, the company invented a machine that could mass produce thousands of the bandages. Instead of the user having to cut them up, each one was ready to go. Band-Aids were now about 3 inches long and an inch wide, and they were cute too. Each one had a little red string to pull in order to open the paper wrapper. Success! Band-Aids flew off the shelves. The end. Well, okay, not really. Unfortunately, even with the cute red string and the convenient size, the public wasn't sold on the idea. Mr. Johnson knew there had to be a solution. What happened next was a stroke of genius. The company decided to give the Band-Aids away. Mr. Johnson wondered who needed self-adhesive bandages the most, and that light bulb went off again. The Boy Scouts, of course. All those fall down, climb up, scratched elbows, scraped knees. Boys got plenty of cuts. It didn't take long before the mothers of those rough and tumble boys saw how handy those little bandages were. That did it. Earl and Josephine's invention was a smash. During World War II, the company sent millions of free Band-Aids to the brave soldiers fighting overseas. In the years that followed, Band-Aids were made into different sizes, colors, and designs. Some even had pictures of cartoon characters on them, and that continues to this day all over the world. From boisterous hot dog vendors in Brooklyn, fancy French winemakers, tired taxi drivers in Denmark, and English bobbies on bicycles, to daredevil skateboarders in Saskatchewan, crab king fishermen in Alaska, sweaty Uganda soccer players, and applauding audiences at the Bolshoi Theater in Moscow. The sounds of, ah, what, ouch, echo still, but not for long. Because soon those snivels and sobs of pain are silenced by Earl and Josephine's accidental boo-boo invention. And that is the happiest sound of all. The end, really. It's really, really the end. And on the next page, you see the author's note, which gives you a little bit more information about the story and the invention of the Band-Aid. And this year, in 2020, Band-Aid celebrates its 100th anniversary. And in spite of all the global competition, Band-Aid brand adhesive bandages are still the boo-boo king of the world. And there's also some additional information about other medical inventions from the 20s and 30s, and all kinds of like just goody stuff and tidbits of information that you'd like to read. And on the very last page, they've got all these websites that you can go to, and you can even learn more about something that seems so small, a Band-Aid, but what a difference it's made to all of us in the world. Thank you. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.